Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it. What's up, everybody? Cowboy here, and it is 8:30 a.m. EST. We're taking a look at Bitcoin for the moment, and this is the question that everybody has. Is Bitcoin bull market starting up? Is the bear market dead, right? Well, what does that all mean? Well, before we get into what I think may happen next, let's go ahead and take a look at the past so we can understand that the Bitcoin top, right, the top of the prior cycle happened around September or October. Price for Bitcoin hit $127,000 or so. 126 actually is closer to the right number. And it's heading down as it usually does after a cycle top, after a 4-year cycle top, right? We can look back a couple of cycles on this particular chart. We have prior cycle top here in 2018, and then we had the prior cycle top really technically here. But, you know, this was a interesting cycle, to say the least. It was the COVID cycle. Long story short, though, you had the top at about 70,000, and then the bear market moved down. And then now we see the top at 126, and we should be in the middle of a bear market move down. Now, these usually take about 400 days until you see the bottom after the top. And we are not at that point yet. We would see the bottom if that were to happen in probably October, November, and it should be below 30,000. However, we can't really form a strong thesis based on 3 data points, 3 halvings that have happened in the past. But typically that's the reasonable metric, right? We would expect what I just said. We're not seeing that at the moment, though, and a lot of people seem to think that Bitcoin bottom is in. They seem to think that the bottom was at, what is that? Move forward to the present here. A lot of people think the bottom was at 58,000, right? They think the bottom was right here and that we're going to start to see a V-shaped recovery and price is going to go up to new highs. And where those highs might be, who knows? But I would guess probably, unless something really fundamentally changes, that high would be below 200,000 or maybe around 200,000. We can get into all that later because I don't think it's time yet. The big move up that we're seeing, as I said in yesterday's weekly video, is a combination of a couple of things, or at least one of a couple of things, right? All of this started to happen when we crossed over $40 trillion in debt, right? In national debt. And we tried some bond twists, AKA not yield curve control, right? It's yield curve control that's not yield curve control. And long story short, we sold short-term bonds to buy long-term bonds and keep the yields low so that we have a chance at servicing the debt when the time comes. So long story short, we wanted to keep the yields down. We did some artificial games to do it. And all of that news was combined with a big move up at Bitcoin. Now, I can also tell you that Bitcoin had a technical reason for moving up as well. So you add all those things up and you get a very strong move up. And a lot of people seem to think that we're going to go to new highs. I'm not convinced. Now, if Bitcoin were to stay above 83,000 for more than a couple weeks, right? So this line is 83,000. Price did peak yesterday, last night. I'll zoom in on this, but it peaked at about 81,500 overnight. So if price made its way above 83,000, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, or the following week, or whenever, and stayed up there for longer than 2 weeks, and other things lined up in the algos, I might be like convinced, or at least convincible, that we may have seen the end of the bear market on the next bull. But that hasn't happened yet, and that wouldn't happen for me for at least a few weeks. So for the moment, we're looking at possible rejection maybe at 83,000. And the reason I have that number just goes back to this older resistance right here, which really should be 82.7, but I like 83. It's a nice round number. So in reality, the number is about 82,750, 82,750. But if price can go above 83 and stay there for 2 or 3 weeks, then I'll be convincible that we might be on the way to the top. Until then, this could end up acting as a bull trap. Now, I'm not saying there's a bunch of guys saying, hey, let's just crush the price upward and we'll get all the bulls in and then we'll dump on them. While that's possible, it could be just as likely that this move was just a combination of the technical ability to head up, maybe a little bit of massaging from the big guys, and then the news coming out. And the thing about Bitcoin is that a lot of Bitcoin investors just simply are not very sophisticated. So they're thinking that Bitcoin is going to go up forever and this is going to be the one. And this is going to be the beginning of the super cycle. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, but they think this every time and have thought this every time for 12 years or however long it's been. And so chances are it's probably not going to shoot up to $1 million at the end of the year, right? And I think chances are pretty decent that it's actually going to probably head back down before it heads up. But we're going to see. We're going to see on that. Now, short term, what I'm looking at is either a rejection at about 83,000 or, and this is actually, if I look really close, it's 82,843. That's where that blue line is. If you line it up really close to that prior resistance, if you want to get pretty precise, that's more or less where that is, right? So we could see a rejection at that level, maybe catch a nice short, but I'd be really careful shorting that. And the reason I say that is because Bitcoin is known to punish the shorts. And they do that because it's just because they can. It's stop runs, right? Now, this could be one giant stop run. They do happen, despite some sources saying, no, you can't stop run on such a giant scale. Oh, yes, you can. I don't care what they say. They can absolutely stop run. And this whole thing might be a short squeeze into a stop run. And what I mean by that is that this might be allowing the price to go up really high, get in the moon boys, sell off up here, load up shorts, price goes down, moon boys, aka unsophisticated traders who always think it's going to go up forever, get left holding the bag, and everybody else profits. That could be the case. Well, in this case, people who go short right here could get wrecked, because what will happen is they go short and their stop losses are maybe like up here where the one is for this particular trade. So I'll delete this to make it easier to see. Their stop loss is up here, and then price goes right through their stop, and then it goes down, right? Very typical thing to happen with Bitcoin especially, but in trading in general. It's very typical. So I would be really careful shorting Bitcoin ever. It's just a tricky thing to do. You got to make sure that your metrics all line up, and you got to be ready to take a loss and then maybe enter the short again if the metrics all line up. The other option would be if price ends up being very bullish and heading up further, maybe to say 88,000 or something like that. Let me see. I actually wouldn't go past 88 on this target personally. If there is a breakout above this 83,000, and you are confident that it's going to continue up, confident enough to take a trade, your rules are met, right? Well, then perhaps you consider a trade, and that's up to you. And I would look at something up to 88,000. Now, I typically don't trade like this, especially Bitcoin. It's really tricky at this time. When you're in a post-halving move down, there's just a lot of chicanery that goes on. So I'd be really careful doing that. But that is the look right now. It's either going to reject or head up or some combination of both, which is really a silly thing to say because that's pretty much all the options that there are. But understand that 82,800, aka 83,000, is a key number. And I won't be convinced that we're even possibly going to go to new highs until I see Bitcoin staying above 83,000 for at least 2 weeks. And even then, I'm going to be taking a look at the metrics. So that's Bitcoin. Is it going to continue up? It could. It really could by the metrics. But if you look at all the data, it does have the juice to continue up. It's starting to see, an area where it could get tired. So I will keep an eye on it, and I will continue to give my opinions here as this unfolds. I'd say, do we have enough time? Yeah, we have a little bit more time. I will take a brief look at the NASDAQ because the NASDAQ has just been heading down. It did have a nice pop-up with the futures, though. So what I drew last night in the weekly report, by the way, the weekly report is free. Go into the description, click on the free algo. There's a free algorithm in there. It's a video where I build an algo. I'll show you how I do it. Now, you do have to optimize the algo before you use it. You can't just willy-nilly go and, hey, I'm going to plug this into my broker, like you might lose a lot of money doing that. So you have to come to algofactory.tech for us to show you how to optimize algos or even build your own algo, which is preferred, right? But if you do that, you click on that, you get the free algo, you will get an email notice for that weekly report that comes out every Monday. In this particular case, I predicted that this would kind of grind down a bit, but it did get a nice boost in the futures market overnight. Now we're going to see whether or not that can sustain as the rest of the market opens up, because it was rather bearish yesterday. Now we are in a position where this could, what I think is probably going to happen with this is you might start to develop a range above this 28,780, right? So this is the 28,780-ish area. So instead of it heading down and bouncing like this, which is kind of what I thought it would do, so I will keep this on here just, so you see it. What may end up happening here is that this may end up sort of developing a range and staying above that level. We're going to see. It easily could go below, but this is such an extended move now, and I will back up to explain that. This is such an extended move. It's been going down for quite a while, since like last week. There's probably going to be a relief bounce at some point, right? So it really could do a lot of different stuff, and we're kind of left to sort of just see what it does in a sense, right? Once a move goes for that long, you kind of have to let the technical market take over and see what it does. And we don't really have any big news coming out for the dollar, for USD related stuff until the end of the week, unless we hear something from Trump on Iran. And it seems that the Iran conflict has kind of turned into more of a diplomatic situation with the occasional kinetic flare up. So, those headlines may not take place again for a while. But I will say that we do have the elections coming up, the midterms. So that could get pretty wild. But we do have another month and a half until that. So, maybe 2.5 months until the midterms come, right? So I wouldn't focus too hard on that at the moment, but this is what I expect for the NASDAQ. So we're going to go ahead over to the private live lab, and we're going to jump in there, answer all their questions. Remember, for this live lab that you're looking at right now on YouTube, this is free to the public. We go for 10 to 15 minutes on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if you have a chart that you want to see, just let me know, and we'll take a look at it, as long as it's not like some stupid meme coin that got invented like last week. All right. So thanks for watching. AlgoFactory.tech. Learn to trade like a hedge fund pro. And do not forget,
join us or die.
Just kidding.